Wood Badge used to teach how to lead a patrol in the woods. Now it's about leading people. What do you think has changed? Hey, ScouterStan, let's jump into this. Wood Badge is one of those subjects that a lot of leaders may be familiar with.
Back to Gilwell, happy land. I'm going to work my ticket if I can.
Yeah, those guys. Wood Badge is amazing training that a lot of adults are participating in, and it goes way back in history. It is premier training for any scout leader. If you are Cub Scout, den leader, if you're an assistant Scoutmaster or a committee chair or in a crew or a ship, any of them, you need to take Wood Badge. Wood Badge is the ultimate in training, and we'll get into why. But a lot of people are just like, well, I don't know, it sounds a little strange, a little odd. Yeah, scouting can be that way, but this is leadership training, and it's for the adults. This is not for the youth. The youth have their own program that's called NYLT, National Youth Leadership Training. And it's just like Wood Badge. It's a long, week-long course, usually at a summer camp. That's usually where they do that. Wood Badge has evolved just like everything else in scouting, because this is a scouting movement, okay? Anything that doesn't change or adapt tends to go extinct, and we don't want that. It's a scouting movement. So Wood Badge is the same way. Now, Wood Badge origins start in 1919. Baden-Powell, Lord of Gilwell, that's the big thing. Gilwell Park was donated to the Scout Association, and that was a great way to have a location for adult training of outdoor skills. This was so that adults could actually learn these skills before trying to help teach them. This is a big deal, and all the leadership was expected at one point to take part in Wood Badge. Wood Badge was huge, and it has a lot of different origin stories. Everything from the beads that Baden-Powell actually recovered when he was in South Africa. Actually got these native Zulu beads that were made of a wood from a sacred tree, and that was something that was very important. And he actually had this big long necklace of these wooden beads, and those beads are what we call Wood Badge. They're the beads you see on the little leather thong. That's the little thing that's on there. Then there's different kinds of beads. You have you get 2 right off the bat, and you go into 3, and so on. We'll get into that. But Wood Badge has origins that go way back. Now, a lot of the training originally from way back actually was to go and actually put together a good program, an outdoor program. And from that, all the skills were learned and all these things were taught to them over a week-long period where they would learn how to build a fire, how to pitch a tent, how to clear the area to prevent fire from getting out of control. Lots of different skills that they would learn. Everything from knot tying and different things, rescue, first aid, you name it. There was a lot of skills that were being taught. And we still do that even today. So this was the very first time that adult leaders could actually attend Wood Badge and learn these skills. Now, of course, all of this was learning by doing. That was the big thing. Put up a tent. Actually put together a fire. Not only that, but a campfire program. How to set up your camp so that you can keep it clean and safe. These are skills that we do and learn because we're doing, just like the Scouts. That's the beautiful thing about Wood Badge. We do all these camp craft skills that the Scouts need to also obtain, and by doing it, they learn from that. Now, scouting in the United States, they didn't have Wood Badge until 1936. That's before World War II. And that was huge. Scouting was going for quite some time. There's a war, and of course, 1936 was gearing up towards that, and they had the very first Wood Badge at Shift Scout Reservation. Then, during the war, they had several times when they could get back to that, but there was a draw on the adult leadership from the war, and so scouting kind of struggled along, and we were able to get a lot of really good quality leaders until 1948. That was really the first official Wood Badge course that was given in the United States. It was identical to the British one, only there was some adaptation, some changes had happened to that program. Now, as the American program started off, William Hillcourt, Greenbar Bill, actually was a big promoter of that training. And because of that, they focused a lot on the scout skills, so that there was opportunities for leaders to actually do the things that they want the scouts to be involved in. Anything from sharpening a knife to putting up a tent, so on. There's so many different skills, and being at that Shift Scout Reservation was awesome, because that was a premier training center in New Jersey. Now, Greenbar Bill made sure that there was training modules in the program, so that it was consistent as far as what was being taught. It also focused heavily on patrol method and patrol spirit, and all of those things were built into the program. Now, the American style or form of Wood Badge was repeatable, and it was more reliable as far as the actual program. This was something that was very written down and planned out, and because of that, it had a very structured and a repeatable kind of a thing that it could actually do. Now, there is a video on this very thing, so definitely check out that video. It basically explains why adult leaders need to do Wood Badge, and we've talked briefly about it, but this particular video is about the history. That's more about the actual program in America, so it's a little bit different than what you're going to find in all the other countries that have a Wood Badge, whether it be Canada, Mexico, anything on the the Americas. That's a little bit different, but the American variety, the history of that is fascinating, and that is one of the things that we focus on here. That other video is about really getting involved in going to Wood Badge in your area. Now, there was a big shift between the different theories. A lot of times it was outdoor activities and camp skills. Now, with the American variety today, it's more of a leadership theory. How to communicate, how to do the things that are needed to really be an effective leader. This is critical skills that are needed for every adult leader that wishes to have a good, wholesome scout program. It also went from managing tasks into how to manage or delegate to others on how to get those tasks completed. That's the wonderful thing about Wood Badge, is that it's more of a management training than anything else. How to manage a troop, how to keep things going. So critical that you understand that it's not just how to build a fire or sharpen a knife or an axe. It's more than that. It's the big picture. That's the big thing. Another big thing is communications. Not only speaking, but listening. Active listening is a skill. It is so important that that's a leadership basic thing. Communications is so important. The next big thing, of course, is team leadership. How to lead a team of scouters so that they can help scouts achieve their goals. So important that's a huge thing. Being able to work as a team. The communications, the team leadership, that is such a big part of Wood Badge. And another big one is the actual vision of what they want to do, what your goals are, and how to achieve those goals, how to break them down into parts so that it can be achieved. Wood Badge stopped teaching what to do and started teaching how to lead others doing it. Hey, before we go any further, I want to make sure that you know that you're personally invited to come to the Campfire Chat. It's a live meeting we hold on the very first Sunday of each month, starting at 9 p.m. Please join us with your questions, and we will answer those live on the show. In addition, I want to also thank all of the Patreon supporters that are helping support what we do here. Also, if you want to get directly involved with the channel, we have a membership. Hit the join button and it will give you more information about how to get involved in supporting what we do. And in that, here's a list of all the people that are continuing their support of our channel. Now, Wood Badge in 2000s actually had a redesign. One of the big drawbacks that they did through all the studies and stuff that National does, they found that the drawback was that it required so much time from participants. Originally, back in the day, it was a week-long course. It started on a Friday afternoon or Friday morning and went all the way through to the next Friday morning. I mean, it was a full 7 days. It was very involved. In time, they broke the two pieces into 2 weekends, and they put a week in between so that there would be a little bit of timing. That made it a little more bearable. Instead of 7 days, it became 6 full days. So it was important to know that in 2000, the only thing they really did was change a lot of the scheduling, and they made it more of a module thing, whereas the first weekend was classroom and the second weekend was in the woods. So that was kind of the two things that they did. They basically cut off or shaved off about 24 hours out of the program. It was that's the thing about Wood Badge. The syllabus is very strong. It says from this time to that time you're doing that. is very strong as far as that goes. So there are built-in brakes. They're not monsters, but it is very structured, and they were able to set it up so that it was a little more convenient to shave off a little more time on that, so that it was not as overbearing in life schedules. Now, because of that, a lot of that stuff is covered in the actual materials. So they didn't decrease the level of training to accommodate cutting off that time. They actually increased that training. So it is very good modular, corporate modular kind of learning, and it's very conducive to adults. Now, the new program also has a ticket development, like a personal goal, and this has to do with actual modules or parts, because that's the way you do them all. That's the way you achieve a big goal, is you have different parts. So those different parts, and working out all of those parts to develop your personal goal, known as the ticket, that is a huge thing. And a lot of people make the mistakes of thinking of it as those little parts as being tickets. No, working your ticket is the thing. You're working towards your personal goal. It's a one thing, okay? So it's a ticket, not tickets. It's not plural. That's a big mind change for some people. That is one of those things. So if you want more information about the ticket process, check out the video. It'll tell you more about the ticket, working your ticket if you can. Now, for many leaders, wood badge, the new wood badge, can seem like, it's good, but is there something missing? The focus on scout skills, knot tying, sharpening an axe, that kind of thing, it's there, but not the focus of what wood badge is about. There was a time when that was a huge thing. So that's something to think about. Things change in the scouting movement that we're in, and you have to have those changes. There's no reason to bring them back, and there's nothing that says you can't learn those skills in addition. So it's up to you as an adult leader. Traditions that don't change within wood badge. There's a lot of really good traditions that we will always keep. The Zulu wood beads that you see on the leather thong, you get 2 of those going through that prong. That's why it's called wood badge. So it's more than one. And that's a huge honor, and that's something that will always be there. So wood badge lives up to that, having those little wooden beads. They're styled from a necklace that was actually recovered in South Africa by Baden-Powell, and he used that at Gilwell. So that's another tradition. Gilwell, you will find that at every scout camp. There's a Gilwell that's there for your wood badge course. So they have a tradition that they do. There's so many things that are steeped in the scouting lore that is a big part of, and that'll always be there. Now you're going to see some of that in like the neckerchief. There will be a wooden, not a wooden, it's a woggle that is actually leather. I lost mine. So I've had to do this until I get another one. But taupe neckerchief, that's this neckerchief. And as you can see, it's got the little tartan on the back. That's a tradition. That's Gilwell. That's the Gilwell tartan. on the back of that actual neckerchief. So that's a tradition that is there. The actual beading ceremony that you'll see at a round table, or you'll see at different things, and then they do a traditional song. There's a lot of core things that'll always be there. And of course, you have critters, okay? There's a huge thing in Scout spirit when you've got a patrol, and that patrol spirit is there. Whether you're an owl, a bobwhite, an eagle, a beaver, the different patrols that are in there, the critters that they have. Oh my goodness, that's a huge thing in the traditions of Wood Badge. Those are camaraderies. Those are wonderful things. You might find out that another leader that you're working with is in the same patrol that you were in at Wood Badge. Not that particular year, but maybe they're both owls, or they're both foxes, or buffalo. Okay, there's different ones that would be in there, and that is a tradition that's very fun. Don't let that be the only focus, though. So you got to be careful. That patrol spirit can get out of control, so it has to be kind of reined in a little bit, and that's an important thing. And then those patrols help each other. You get into those 4 phases we talk about in National Youth Leadership Training. They come in on Wood Badge too. So those phases, those 4 phases that they have, so neat. You gotta go and do this. Now, Wood Badge has definitely evolved with time, and that's a big thing. But a lot of the core values, those don't change. Those are core things. And when you think about it, communication hasn't really changed a whole lot. So those things are still there. How to communicate, how to actively listen, how to get feedback, which is a gift, how to get that and use that to make things better. That is a huge communications thing. There's a lot of different things that go on within Wood Badge that are critical, regardless of where you are in scouting. Whether you're a den leader, becoming an assistant scoutmaster, or going into the committee, these are things that they can actually get involved in. Scout facing, yes, but then you also have behind the scenes. So behind the scenes, there's a lot of help needed, whether it be advancement, whether it be anything to do with keeping the accounts straight, working with the equipment, quartermaster stuff. There's tons of stuff that happens in the background within a troop. And that's true for a pack too. There's a lot of stuff that needs to be done back there. So there's different realms. They can all benefit from doing Wood Badge. Today's Wood Badge is open to more scouters than ever before. It was very, in the old days, it was just for troops, okay, just Scoutmasters. It was very closed in. But we have all these other trainings that do a lot of the scout skills and the scout things, and Wood Badge puts it together. Now with that, you have a unique moment where you can actually tell me if you've been to Wood Badge, okay? So put it in the comments. I'd love to hear about it. Please put your critter in there. Make sure that the bobwhites or the owls or the eagles are mentioned, okay? That's the thing. Make sure you're critter, because that's part of the song, right? So let me know what you think of scouting and how Wood Badge and how important it is. We need to make sure that others see those comments and are encouraged to take it upon themselves to set aside some time for advanced scout training. That's really what I'm trying to do, is get you to put a comment in there. Please do that. Make sure that you put it in there. Of course, stay within Scout law and the Scout oath. Be courteous and kind. Okay, so that's a big thing. And we do a lot for our Scouts. Keep up that good, hard work. We do so much. And having a good trained leader, every Scout deserves that. Baden-Powell even said that every Scout deserves a trained leader to be there, to be their mentor, their coach, the person who's going to facilitate that particular goal for that youth. So critical that you do the training. And it has changed over time. It's evolved. It is amazing. Absolutely amazing. So, again, make sure that you put that in the notes, the comments. Make sure you put what critter you are and how great it was. That I'd love to hear that. Or you're thinking about it. Now I'm going to do it. I'd love to hear about that. That's a success story. I want that feedback because it is a gift. And it's a gift. I love tearing the paper off and making sure I read it 3 or 4 or 5 times. So definitely keep up the good hard work. There is a video about critters. Yes, the critters that we sing about. That's a big thing. So check it out right over there. Until next time, I'll see you on the Wood Badge Trail.